Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the guest that I have on today. She's written a book recently, and she's got a lot of knowledge that will help not only your kids, but also you. And we're going to dive into all that stuff. But my good friend Rebecca Jackson has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're doing is important. I think what you're doing is great and makes a lot of sense, especially in today's world. But for my listeners, viewers who don't know kind of who you are or what you do, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Rebecca Jackson, and my job is I'm Chief Programs Officer for a company called Brain Balance. And Brain Balance is focused on delivering programs for kids, teens, and adults to strengthen the brain to improve function and performance. We think so often about the struggles and challenges in life. We notice the symptoms, but symptoms are present for a reason. And at Brain Balance, we're focused on root cause. What's not happening in the brain that's making things more challenging or difficult, and what can we do to change that to impact life?
Awesome. That's great. We can get into all that, but tell me about your family as well.
Yeah, I'm a mom of two kids, so I'm have been married for almost 20 years to a great guy. So my husband's Doug, and then I've got a daughter who's a senior in high school. So we're in this crazy phase of life of juggling all the things of work and school and sports and college applications and having these, in one moment she seems so grown up, and in the next you're like, how do you not know some of these basic daily things, like that panic of, oh my gosh, I've got so much yet to teach you. And then my son is a sophomore in high school, so he's about to get his driver's license. And he's a travel hockey player, which keeps us on the road and on the go a lot. But it also has been wonderful, fun family time and has turned me into a pretty big hockey fan. So, and then two dogs, and we are outside and active whenever possible. So that's my life.
All right. Well, you are in the thick of things right now between, like you said, that your daughter getting ready to go off to college, trying to figure out where she wants to go. It's funny when you said that you're like, I have so much to teach you. We had that same experience with my older son. It's like we've gone through things and taught him things about, we've taught him adult things, right? As far as, how to do certain things around the house and stuff like that. And he knew how to work our washer and dryer. But what he didn't realize is when he got to his college and tried to use the washer and dryers at the school, they were completely different. They were like this low budget washer and dryer, and he had no clue how to do it. And he called us up going, I don't know how to work this washer or dryer. Like it was coin operated, all this stuff. He's like, I don't know how to work this washer. I don't know what I'm doing. And so like we had to FaceTime him and kind of walk him through how to use it. But so even though she may know how to wash her clothes, the washer and dryers may be completely different at the school. So once you determine what school she's going to go to, then I would go take a tour and then I would go to the washer and dryers and teach her how to use them in case she doesn't know.
That's such key advice, because it's those little moments for all of us that can throw us when you're in the middle of doing something and you're on a time crunch and all of a sudden you're stuck and you don't know how to do it. But I'll tell you, I learned so much from my kids. They're so good at using technology to problem solve, of like hopping on AI to say it's a Samsung washer. What do I do? Like watching how the kids problem solve, I think has been, I learned from watching how they navigate life, which is interesting.
That's funny. Yeah, AI has completely shifted the world. I will say that for sure. I use AI all the time, even for my own thinking. Like I'll be thinking of something, and I'll be like, I know. I'd be just stuck in my thought on something, and I'll type it into AI and go, what is the result of this, or why am I thinking this way? And it'll give me reasons why. It's crazy. So I don't know that we need psychologists anymore.
We do.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
There's
kidding.
still human nuance that computers, I think, will never fully grasp, but it does blow my mind what it can do today and how quickly it's changing.
Yeah. Um, so brain balance, brain health. When I think about all that stuff, I think about the things that our kids go through now, the struggles that they face. And it seems like to me that every time I hear a story of a child who is struggling mentally, that there's a lot of there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of pushing towards medications. Medicate. And that may not always be the right approach. I know that, you try one medication, it doesn't work, or the child feels different or starts having different thoughts, maybe even suicidal thoughts because that medication could be causing that. Then they switch the medication, they go to a different one, then they switch it again, then they go to a different one. What are your thoughts on all that? Because I know that there's so many other techniques that can be used as opposed to just what I call putting a band-aid on the problem, which is medication. So, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
and
on
I
that?
think we could do a whole episode just on this question alone. There's a lot to dig into. I'll say, first and foremost, everybody needs to make the decision that's right for them and no judgment. And I think what's so important to understand is it's often not one thing that is the total solution. It may require a combination of strategies and tools. And I think it's so important at the end of the day to realize what I said at the beginning. We often focus on a symptom,
Hmm.
but when it comes to how we feel and how we function, that's guided by our neurology, by the connections in our brain and how they fire and what our endurance is. And then when we look at something like ADHD or development or mental health, I think all too often we're looking at these things very siloed. So we think about mental health as our feelings and our actions, and we think about, excuse me, ADHD as our attention and behaviors. But all of this comes down to what's happening or not happening in our brain. So
Mm.
I like reframing these things through the lens of brain health. We all have a brain. And I hope that it helps to remove the stigma, because when we talk about ADHD or mental health, there can be a certain stigma that goes along with it. We
Right.
all have a brain. We all have a status of our current brain health, and the status of that brain health impacts mental health, cognition, attention, behavior. So I absolutely think that there's a time and a place where medication is appropriate and the right choice for certain individuals. But like you're saying, is I think we live in a society where we want things quick and we want things easy. And
Right.
so we want the quick fix. And again, there can be a time and place for that. There's no judgment there. But I always want to take a step back to say, okay, what can I do to feel good and be effective today, as well as tomorrow and next year and 5 years from now? The medication has the potential to reduce some of the symptoms while it's active in your body, but it's not changing the differences in brain connectivity that's leading to that symptom in the first place. So I think we need to have a reality check of what is your goal with the medication, and a goal of feeling and functioning better is okay, but understanding that that isn't getting you to a long-term goal of being able to function more easily without needing to take a medication. And if we look at studies on ADHD medication, for example, we can see that there can be an increase in seated work time. And so maybe less disruptiveness in the classroom, but long-term studies show that there's not necessarily a change in learning outcomes. And so again, if we think about what are our short-term and long-term goals, and then I think parents today and adults looking for answers and help aren't aware of things beyond the traditional options. And I think for far too many, the traditional standard of care falls short, where maybe you tried a medication because you didn't know what else to do, and maybe it helped, maybe it didn't. It's not a cure all. And what I hear from parents and adults over and over and over on a daily basis is, why didn't I know about you sooner? Why didn't I know that there were options other than medication? And so that's, I think, what I'm really passionate about right now is educating around the concept of brain health and how it impacts all of us, and empowering people to know you can make a difference in how you feel and function through specific exercises and activities, daily lifestyle and habits, and programs like Brain Balance that are very targeted and directed at strengthening and improving connectivity in the brain to improve emotional regulation, impulse control, sustained attention, and things of that nature.
Yeah, there's a lot behind it, and it's not a simple fix. I get that. It's something that needs to be worked on for a while. I was a few years back. This is a few years back. I mean, probably 4 years ago or so. I was diagnosed with ADD, and I didn't even think I never knew I had it. Never knew anything about it. But it was. I took this. Excuse me, everybody, I got a cold, but I took this like this brain I guess test, like cognitive test online, like through the doctor. I had to sit in front of a computer and go through this whole series of questions and all that stuff, and that's how they came up with this diagnosis. And I thought it was weird and all that. And they wanted to prescribe medication. I said, I'd really like to try alternative things besides the medication. And I came up with something that would help me focus my brain on a particular thing. And for me, believe it or not, for me, it was Legos. That's how simple it was. And I've never in my life, doctor, I've never in my life played with Legos, had Legos. Like I've never had an interest in Legos. And so I bought a couple sets of Legos and I told my wife, I said, look if I'm, she's like, why are you doing this? And I said, because if I'm working on Legos, then my mind is focused on what I'm doing. It's not like all over the board thinking about all millions of different things. I'm focused on one piece at a time on this Lego set, and it helps me to be calm. It helps me to just kind of, I guess, reset my mind, my brain, my mental thinking. And all I'm doing is focused on this. Like everything else could be going on around me, and my mind is so. It's crazy how much it worked.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
I love that you had, so it sounds like the doctor's appointment helped bring a little self-awareness. So there
Hmm.
there had to have been a reason that you went to the doctor in the first place. So there was maybe an underlying question that you were experiencing. But then I love that your self-awareness to try a strategy and then find what works for you. I think one of the challenges is our kids don't always have that self-awareness to know what strategy is going to work for them.
Right.
And you bring up a piece that, again, a really important piece to me is what you just said is how Legos help to quiet your mind and quiet your thoughts.
Right.
I think it's really important to understand that we have a high comorbidity. When somebody has ADHD, there is a higher rate of other diagnosed mental health challenges. And I'm not saying that that pertains to you, but it's higher likelihood of anxiety and depression. And it's because some of the same networks and pathways of the brain are involved. So when you've got an individual that struggles with the inattentive type of ADHD, your brain is going to spend more time in the default mode network. And so that's when you're kind of zoned out and your thoughts are roaming. So I always picture this when you're driving down the road, you're driving through Nebraska, flat land, your mind's wandering. And when our mind is in that default mode wandering network, our thoughts will scan the past and think about past experiences
Hmm.
and jump to the future. So if you're a mind that's spending more time bouncing between the past and the future, and you don't have the strength in the pathways to stop thoughts, you've got rumination happening. So you can have more time spent worrying and a harder time turning it off, which
Hmm.
then impact feelings of depression and anxiety. And so these things all work together, but we tend to think of them as individual separate symptoms or separate components, but there's a considerable amount of overlap.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's just something that I'm a avid runner too. I run a lot of marathons and stuff like that, and I that's another area of my area that I like. I go for a run. It's just me and my legs and my music playing in my head. I still have thoughts, about I still come up thinking about things while I'm running, but it's my mind is so much calmer. Actually, running, I tell people, running helps me to relax. It calms me down. And they go, how the heck does it help you to relax? Because you're out exerting energy. Like I'm like, it just helps me to calm down. I mean, even when I'm having a bad day, I come in the house and I had a rough day or whatever, or I'm in a grumpy mood, my wife will go, you need to go for a run. Like you
Yeah,
need to go for a run because it will calm me down. And
yeah,
so those are the two things that have helped me get more on track with my mental focus. And you're right. It's not gonna be something that may work for everybody. Like there's gonna be plenty of people that none of those things are gonna work for. For me, those two, like I got in my office downstairs. I have a studio upstairs. In my office downstairs, on my desk, there's spread out a Lego set that I'm actually working on. So if there's ever a time where I'm just kind of struggling with my thoughts, I just, I tell my wife, hey, I'm gonna go work with the Legos for about an hour, and she's like, okay, go ahead, do your thing. And it just completely changes my mindset.
Well, to go back to the running piece, you're exactly correct in the neurology of what you're experiencing is when you're doing sustained cardio, you're actually also building sustained attention. So you're strengthening endurance not only in your body but in your brain as well, which
Oh, it's interesting.
strengthens your resilience. So we all have our level of functioning. So, our ability to pay attention, to block out distractions, to regulate mood and emotions. But then life can disrupt that or interfere with that. So when we're tired, when we're stressed, when we're sick, that lowers our resources and lowers our reserves. So we're going to have a harder time with the things that we already struggle with when those reserves are lowered. But when we exercise our body, our muscles, we increase heart rate, we increase oxygen flow, it fires networks and pathways in the brain that also helps to build the endurance of the brain. And so there's exercise movement is one of the most powerful things that we can do to build and protect our brain as we age. And there's different benefits from different types of exercise. So there's benefit in the spike your heart rate.
Right.
There's benefit in the high intensity and recovery. There's benefit in sustained cardio. There's benefit in muscle endurance or strength training. Each one of those exercises activates neurology in the brain and impacts the neurology in slightly different ways. So again, you naturally are implementing some of the most powerful, effective strategies, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We talk about root cause when we're dealing with our children. Why do you think so many parents, even professionals, still focus on behavior instead of brain function? And how can we start shifting that conversation, I guess, inside our homes?
We focus on behavior because that's what disrupts our day, right? Teachers aren't calling you in the middle of work day to say your child is on task and doing great, thank you. They call because there was a disruption, there was a pain point.
Right.
So we're motivated to address pain. So if you're a family and you have a hard time making it through a family dinner without a meltdown, a disruption, you know, think about pain points in your day. Is it getting the kids out of the door on time without meltdowns and all the supplies needed for the day? Is it getting the homework done and turned in? Is it getting through math homework? And we notice the pain points the most, and so behavior is what we see. But to me, the behavior is there for a reason. Kids are not born to be bad. Everybody deep down, we all want to please people. We want to please ourselves. We want to feel good about what we do. We want to please others. We don't want to let people down. And so to me, the behavior is always a signal of something else going on.
Mm,
And I always try with my own kids, try to take a step back to say, okay, if they're negative, that means in that moment, their brain doesn't have the resources it needs to perform what's been asked. And so they're either feeling underprepared or overwhelmed. So if they're tired, have they had
right.
enough to eat? Have they exercised? Are we asking them to do something that they're not equipped to do? So, if you haven't had calculus yet and I'm asking you to do calculus, you're going to get really frustrated and upset. And so, it's all too easy to look at the age of the child to set the expectation, not looking at the development. So it's easy to assume that a 10-year-old should be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I think shifting that conversation, to me, it's so important to understand when it comes to our kids, their development today is the biggest predictor of their abilities in the future. And so if you're seeing areas of development that are lagging behind, that's going to have the potential to lag behind their attention, their executive functions, their emotional regulation. So I want to be hyper aware of their current abilities and not in a judgmental way. This is just taking a screenshot of where are we today? Because if I've got a clear, non-biased opinion of where their development is today, that gives me a path forward of what can I do to make sure that that development is on track so that they can meet the demands of life as they're shifting from elementary school to middle school, and there's more to juggle, more independence needed. When you're shifting from middle school to high school to college, college to
Hmm.
grad school, you get a
Yeah.
promotion at work. life continues to increase the demands placed on us, and we need to make sure that that development is continuing to support those increased demands.
No, I agree with that, and I think that there's so many things that we can do as parents in our daily habits to help our children shift their mindset. From your research and experience, can you give me maybe two or three top daily habits that maybe parents can implement right now to strengthen their child's brain health?
Yes, this is my favorite topic. It's why I wrote the book Back on Track. But the first thing that I'm going to say two things. First and foremost, the brain can change at any age. It is never too late to make a difference in brain function and performance. So don't feel like, I'm over a certain age, I can't do anything, or they're in high school, it's too late. It's never too late to change the brain. And what I've seen in the research that we've done at Brain Balance over and over again is that when we do multisensory stimulation and targeted physical movements and exercise, we can change attention, hyperactivity, emotional regulation. And so it's not about practicing the challenge. So if behavior is the issue, disciplining the behavior isn't going to create change.
Hmm.
Ensuring the foundational development is the more effective way to change that. So when it comes to daily habits, I'm going to talk about two things. One is screen time. And we need to have a balanced approach to screen time because screens aren't going away.
Right.
When we have a student that's spending 6, 7, 8, 9 or more hours a day on screen time, that's that many hours that they're not moving their body and engaging their multisensory systems in the way that you would if you were outside riding a bike, moving around, interacting with others face to face. And so screen time, I'm not here to vilify it, but we've got to find a healthy balance because right now it is disrupting sleep, it is
Hmm.
disrupting movement, it is disrupting face to face interaction for far too many adults and kids, not just our kids. And so being really intentional about finding an appropriate balance so that we're prioritizing movement and interaction and then finding a balance with that screen time. And then to me, the other really important piece is exercise and many different kinds of exercise because each, as I mentioned earlier, each different kind of exercise activates the brain in a different way. But movement is so powerful. One of the things that I say to my kids all the time is we engage our muscles to engage the brain. And so
Hmm.
using that as a lifelong strategy is, if I'm writing something at work and I'm feeling stuck, my Lego break is movement. So I'm in it. If I can, I'll go for a quick run. Or if I don't have time to go for a run, can I get up and do some squat jumps or some lunges? Again, very embarrassing to my kids when I do these things. But when we engage our muscles, it increases attention, alertness, and memory in our brain. Our kids can use that as a strategy. If you've got a child that struggles in school, movement first thing in the morning can help set their brain up to be ready for the day. If you're about to sit down and do homework on a tough subject and your child is tired and irritable, put movement in first because you're turning on the muscles to turn on the brain. So you've got increased alertness and focus. So to me, balanced screen time and putting prioritization on movement, it's what I've seen in my work at Brain Balance for the last 17 years. It's what I've seen in the research I've published is those are things that have the ability to improve and enhance brain performance and function.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. It's something that is not only important for kids, but also adults. Us as parents can utilize both those practices when it comes to our own brain health. And I've coached a lot of dads over the years, and I've told them like one of the things that you probably, are used to is that screen. That screen is constantly in your face. Well, there's things that are happening around you that you may not even be aware of because you're so dialed in on what's on my phone that you could have your little 4-year-old standing next to you, tugging on your jeans or whatever, saying, "Daddy, I want to play with you," and you're so busy focused on your phone, you have no idea that your little one needs your attention. Or we're laying in bed and we're looking at the screen. Even the TV is considered screen time, believe it or not. When you're watching
Yeah.
TV, that's considered screen time. So when we go to bed, my phone gets put to the side at 7 o'clock at night. That's when my phone goes away. I don't look at it. I don't play with it, and it's like that all night long. Now, Some of you may have kids that are in college and all that kind of stuff, and you want to have your phone next to you in case they call you and all that. That's fine. That's fine. Just turn the screen light. There's a light switch on the screen that you can shift from bright to dark. Just turn that screen light down so that way you can, if you need to look at your phone, it's not so bright and on your face. But the other thing is, the other thing is exercise is important. And I think for dads, one of the things there's a couple things that I've told my dads when I've coached them. As I said, look, when you wake up in the morning, one of the first things you want to do is get your body moving. But here's what I want you to do before you even do that. When you wake up, I want you to have a journal next to your bed because as soon as we wake up, naturally, we're thinking about all the millions of things we have to do today, all the millions of things we didn't get done yesterday, and what else are we worried about that's affecting our mind? What are we worried about right now? So a lot of us wake up being worried about something. And we remember it as soon as we wake up. When you're asleep, you're in dreamland, you're gone, you don't think about it. But when you wake up, you go, oh gosh, oh, now my worry sensors go up. And oh gosh, I didn't do this. Oh gosh, I didn't do that. Oh, I need to do this and this and this today. So what I want you to do is journal. I want you to write that stuff down. I want you to write it down because I want you to get it out of your brain on piece of paper so that way you're not so dialed in, focused on it. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to work on breathing techniques. So I'd have them, after they were done journaling, then I would have them work on some breathing techniques to calm their system back down because they were so amped up about worrying about different things when they woke up. So now I want you to focus on breathing techniques. And then when you're done with that, then you can go exercise before your family wakes up and interferes with the daily life. Go exercise, get whether it's 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, get some exercise in. I don't care if it's running, I don't care if it's yoga, I don't care if it's just simple stretching, whatever those things are, get your body moving in some way to help get you focused. Those are the things that I've coached my dads on doing in order to help them get mentally prepared for the day and mentally prepared for their families.
So such spot on advice for putting the brain in a focused, calm state where you're more in control of your emotional regulation, more in control of your thoughts. I want to add one thing on the screen time piece that I think is so interesting is our networks and pathways in the brain, we strengthen what we use.
Mhm.
And when we are getting our dopamine, that rush of feel good, um, it's a neurotransmitter or hormone that's released in our brain on the anticipation of something that we like. And so dopamine is released through, foods that we like, through doing exercise and activities that we like, through music, through learning something new, through alcohol, through drugs. There's positive and negative ways that our brain seeks out dopamine. But when we're activating the dopaminergic systems through screens, and we're doing that all the time, that trains our brain that that's where I get my dopamine from. So the more I do it, the more I'm going to continue to do it, which is why it's a hard habit to break. And we see that with our kids. And so with our kids and ourselves, we need to change habits and patterns because we want our kids to be seeking joy, happiness, fulfillment from a lot of different places, not only from a device. So through learning and through interactions and through engaging with friends and family and through exercise. But if we're narrowing our focus to only receive dopamine this one way, we're strengthening those networks and pathways, and we're minimizing the others. And so variety is so important when we think about the screen time.
Yeah, super important. I think that, listen, screen time, using the screens, using your cell phone, using your iPad, whatever it might be, is not always a bad thing. There are positive things behind using those devices. There's apps and stuff that you can use to help with your mental focus as well, and help you get mentally set or reset your mental focus. There's apps out there like Headspace and Calm are the two that just pop in my head. Those are the two that are most popular that I see people using, Headspace and Calm. I'm not a sponsor for them. I'm just saying those are the two that I see the most. And those have different programs, different activities that you can look at and go through to help with your mental focus. So just make sure you guys are aware of that and utilizing the tools appropriately. But I want to ask you, Doctor, before we close, I want you to talk about your book and all that. But for dads or moms that are listening who kind of feel overwhelmed or defeated, what's the first mindset or action step that can help them get their family's brain or and their hope back on track?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is knowledge is power. And if your child is struggling, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It doesn't mean that there's something broken. It means there's an opportunity for things to do better. I think we can get in our own way of not wanting to verbalize or worried and not wanting to acknowledge that there might be something wrong. And so I think it's important to shift that mindset. All of our brains could stand to be optimized in one way or
Right.
another. The brain is enormously complex, enormously nuanced. But if you're having challenges or symptoms, there is an opportunity to create change to minimize those challenges and symptoms. And then knowledge is power. Start with an assessment. At Brain Balance, we do a comprehensive assessment that's measuring key indicators of development and performance. And we measure the things that we know we're able to improve, and that we know when we improve those things, it changes attention, hyperactivity,
Hmm.
response inhibition, emotional regulation. And so that assessment gives us a roadmap of how can we help you meet your goals? How can we help to reduce the challenge? How can we help to put you or your child in the driver's seat so you're more set up for success in your day and in your daily life to thrive? So starting with an assessment, I think, is so powerful. I know it
Yeah.
started with an assessment for you that gave you
Yeah.
insights and understanding. And it's not to me about the label or diagnosis. It's what's working, what's not, and how do we create change.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, the assessment's first step. We got to. There's certain particular questions that they go through on the assessment, and it helps to make sure that the person that you're seeing, or the doctor that you're seeing, can give them a better idea of what pathway, what road we need to go down in order to help get that person the help that they need, whether it's the child or the parent. Either one of those is fine. Doctor, talk about your book a little bit. Share a little bit about it, and then also, where can people find it, get it if they want to pick it up.
Yeah. So the book is called Back on Track, a practical guide to help kids of all ages thrive. And Amazon.com is the easiest way to find it. You can get a paperback or an audio version. And I wrote the book because of the questions that I get every day of parents wondering, when should I worry? When should I act? What's normal? What's not for this age? And so the book is really broken down into different age groups. There's so many great resources talking about developmental milestones for our infants and toddlers. We don't talk about developmental milestones for our elementary, middle school, and high school kids, yet they still exist. So the book's really looking at what is age appropriate in all these different categories from birth through 18, and then diving deeper into common areas of concern like attention, anxiety, executive function, learning, relationships, to understand how the brain and how development supports those areas in our life and what we can do on a daily basis to create change there. So the book is really all about learning what are the questions that I hear parents asking all the time. How can we empower parents to implement strategies at home? And it really kind of ladders up to all the concepts that Brain Balance is. Here's what we know drives development. And there's strategies that you can do from home on your own. Sometimes there's a time when you need more than what a book can offer, and that's where Brain Balance can come in and really accelerate development on a whole nother level through a comprehensive program. But it was trying to answer the needs of parents and questions that I see all the time.
I have an idea for you, and maybe you've already done it. Maybe you've even thought about it but decided not to. Is there any type of, or have you thought about doing a workbook for this book?
You know, that's a great question. The book is published through Mayo Clinic, and as we were publishing it, they did talk about the workbook. You know, to me, the workbook is sort of brain balance of like if you need more help and support implementing this, that's what the program is. We're here to do it for you or guide you through it in many different ways.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a great idea.
All right. Well, cool. Is this a book that you would recommend our children read as far as their particular age area, or is this really just more driven towards the parents reading it and implementing what's the strategies involved in the book?
The book is really written speaking to the parents. I do like when a child is older, and it's developmentally appropriate. So if you've got a very self-aware high schooler, it could be very appropriate for them to read sections of the book, because it can give you those aha moments and that awareness and understanding of there's nothing wrong with me, but here's why I might struggle more in these areas, and here's what I can do about it. But to me, this was the book that I didn't have as a parent that I wanted. It's the book that parents go back to year after year to say, okay, now that my child's in fifth grade, here's what I'm seeing. What can I be doing? And that looks different in seventh grade and ninth grade when they're three. So it's the reference guide for all ages. And even though it's written for kids, the reality is we all have a brain. And so all of the information talking about teenagers also applies to the adult brain as well. So we can all learn a little bit more about the brain and what we can do to support the brain at all ages through the book.
Oh, cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I feel like that we could talk about this topic for the next couple hours. Maybe we'll have to do a part two, have you back on and do a part two. But yeah, this is such a crucial topic for our kids, especially now. I've seen it more and more over the last, 5, 7, 8 years. I've seen it more and more with kids struggling with their mental health. And unfortunately, it can lead to, traumatic experiences that the children go through, whether it's suicide, whether it's, harm to others. There's different things that we've heard about in the news that have gone on with our children, and we need to do everything we can to protect them. And one of the ways that we do that is through strengthening our mental health and strengthening our brain function and helping our, like she said, brain balance. But Back on Track is probably a book that maybe you as parents should really pick up and look at and read, and then implement those strategies and things that are involved in that book. So, Dr. Rebecca Jackson, thank you very much for being on my show. I appreciate you sharing all the knowledge, and I appreciate you writing the book. And I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Bryan.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, it's been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend, Dr. Rebecca Jackson. If you have not yet heard of the book Back on Track, please make sure you go check it out. The links are in my show notes, so you can go right there. You can pick it up directly there. And as she said, there's a hard copy and an audio. So if you're better at listening, and maybe you got a long drive and you want to listen to it, that's fine too. But pick it up, learn a little bit more about what she's referring to, and if you want to follow her or check her out, you can go ahead and do that on the social media links that are in my show notes below as well. And listen, guys, if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.